there's something calling. It's calling me every day. If taking a chance is a crime, then I've got hell to pay. I've been walking the streets in my mind, trying to find a new day. Keep on searching until I will find, until I find a new way. I'm gonna say something, I hope you don't mind. It's time to rearrange. I walk round in circles, I'm going nowhere. It's time to make a change.
Hi, everyone. Thanks for tuning in. I am your host, Charles Wallace. Today's guest does not need much of an introduction, so let's jump right on in to my interview with fitness trainer, creator of P90X, Tony Horton. Tony, how you doing today? Thanks for joining me. I appreciate it.
Charles in charge, brother man. I'm doing good. I'm in Jackson Hole, and there's snow on the way, and I've been here almost a month, and I'm just loving it, man. Loving it.
It's good. Well, listen, I'm so happy to have you on for part 2 of this podcast. For those who want to check it out, there's a part 1. We're gonna, touch on some new things hopefully here. We're not going to rehash all of that. So for those who don't know Tony Horton, P90X, a lot of great stuff in fitness, and I'll let him add if he wants to add anything to that.
Oh, well, geez, P90X, I've written 3 books, Bring It, Crush It, and The Big Picture. I'm on Tonal now. I got my own supplement line called Power Life, which I'm really proud of. It was part of my recovery when I was getting over Ramsay Hunt syndrome. And then, my wife and I have our own little project. I left Beachbody, I don't know, 7 years ago. It was just time, I had a 20-year run and things were changing over there. And I didn't like all the changes, so it was time to go. And I'll leave it at that. But so we started Power Nation. And if you're interested in some of those workouts, I've got one called the Power of 4. And much like Beachbody, they have a lot of different trainers over there. And I've got a lot on my platform, and people really seem to love it. You go to powernationfitness.com. You can check them all out. There's one right now, our most recent one we launched is called PowerSync 60, which is for both men and women, but there's a specific calendar for women. And I work with Dr. Mindy Pelz to create these calendars so that women could get maybe for the first time the results that they wanted. Because when Dr. Mindy, as I like to call her, she did P90X, but she changed the calendar because of her menstrual cycle. So whether you're premenstrual, post, perimenopausal, there's something for you. And we had 2 test groups, and the results are just off the chain. Like, a lot of women don't feel like they're getting beat up, and they feel like they can kind of, they're recovering better. We have something I created called stop options. So a lot of times if there's a 45-minute workout, it can seem kind of daunting, So they're like, oh, I get to stop at 15 or 35 minutes. Great. You know what I mean? And so it just allows people to show up. You know what I mean? It doesn't feel as overwhelming as it is. Like, oh, let me do that P90X 90-minute yoga routine. Yeah. Yay. Not necessarily. So we just, I try to come up with as many strategies as I can to help people complete it and feel like they're not getting trashed or getting overwhelmed, because most people start, but they just don't finish. And the idea here is to get people to get through all the way through it. It's a 60-day program, 2 months, pretty doable, and people love it. So powernationfitness.com. There you go. I am done advertising. And if you want the supplements, use the Tony30 discount code, Tony30, mypowerlife.com.
Fantastic. It's real interesting too. You talk about the, a little bit of a focus towards women. For my own fitness journey, my wife has been on, along that too. And, she's now lost over 100 pounds. We did P90X together, and, we still continue to try to, it's a process, as and we continue to work at it together. I've seen, though, as we continue our journey, Tony, and I think one of the things I've always liked about you, I feel like you're always evolving with science, technology, fitness in general. Anything since, that last 2 years since we talked, and it's really influenced you as far as changes in regards to fitness, even your own regime? And is there any advice you have for like others regarding that?
Well, I would say, I'm at 65. I'm at that point in my life where I don't lift as heavy anymore. I mean, a lot of guys still who are in their late 30s, 40s, 50s, and 60s want to know how to get big. And I mean, unless you're playing, senior rugby, I don't understand what the desire there is. I just want to be fit and athletic and flexible, and I want to be able to move quickly, and so I'm spending as much time on speed, balance, and range of motion as I am, resistance training, hypertrophy, and cardio. And I still have my regular yoga practice. That's an automatic. That's really important because I've got my strength, flexibility, balance, and mindfulness all in one shot right there, and I can do it in my bare feet on a mat with gravity. It's just perfect in every possible way. And now I mean, I've got a slide board, I've got a ski machine, I do jump rope work. I have a VersaClimber, which they had them in every gym in the country, but they were too hard for people, so they took them all out. I mean, I think it's one of the most valuable pieces of equipment I own. I own a water rower, right? So I have, like, when I do cardio now, I don't just get on the VersaClimber for 45 minutes, or I run for an hour, or I jump rope for 20 minutes. I just go on a circuit. I've got 9 different stations where I can do that. Now, not everybody has that. And sometimes it's difficult if you go into a gym and there's it's crowded and everybody's on all the equipment. But I just find that I avoid the boredom, injuries, and plateaus that come from a standard run or a swim or something. And that kind of variety just, recruits different kind of muscles. So that's just more fun. And then I invite a bunch of my pals over and we get after it. Of course, I have a water bag and we smack the crap out of that as well. So, and I have an endless rope, which is a brand new piece of equipment that I just love. If anybody's curious, you can go to endlessrope.com and check them out. They have different versions, and it's something you have to kind of get into the wall, right? I had to have a guy come in and install the thing. But it's so cool and it's so different. And so I've added that since we spoke last. And I think the one thing that had the most impact on me lately, and I think a lot of your listeners won't even know what it is, and it's called Animal Flow. And a friend of mine, Michael Bradley, who's he's certified in it. He shot 2 programs with me on the Power Nation platform, and his Animal Flow stuff. And there's crab, and there's beast, and there's bear, and there's Frogger, and there's all these crazy and positions that you can get in. You go from one to another, and it's almost got this capoeira vibe to it, and it's like a little kid flying around on the floor, you know what I mean? And it's at first it was complicated because when you're transitioning from position to position at a relatively quick speed, I mean, you can tie yourself up in a knot, you know what I mean? It's like you're playing Twister by yourself. But once you kind of get what each one is and how to transition from beast to bear to Frogger to whatever it is, ape, there's a bunch of them. It's just the coolest thing I think I've ever done. And I've never felt more agile and flexible and youthful in doing that. It's just real. And there's a learning curve. It's a learning curve with that as there is for yoga or almost anything that involves, combination muscle recruitment movements, if that's the best way to put it. So yeah, that's kind of where I am. And I've made some change, and I still lift weights, and I still do my pull-ups and my push-ups and my squats and my lunges, you know what I mean? And I still bench weight, but I'm not going for my max anymore. It's not really important to me.
Well, it's working for you, my friend. I mean, you look fantastic as always. Yeah, you're making me feel bad now, man. Put that away.
Still in there, baby.
So Tony, I've always thought you had also like a holistic approach to, it's not always just been about the physical, but you've always the mental, the nutrition, all that good stuff. So anything personally over these last couple of years, it maybe was a breakthrough that has really maybe changed your philosophy a little bit towards fitness?
Wow. Well, towards fitness, there's a fitness and food combination. I mean, I'll cover both, but for me, there's certain things that if it ain't broke, don't fix it. You know what I mean? So for me, I understand that I have to work out 22 days a month. And that was the same thing conversation we had a couple of years ago. I mean, on this trip here in Jackson Hole, I've got skiing, I've got snow shoveling, which is one of my favorite things to do. I just love to dig and throw it as far as I can. And then I've got my little gym downstairs. There's a local gym that was here that I loved, and they were going to remodel it, and it was supposed to be done by now, and it doesn't even look like they started. So I don't know what's going on with that. So so I had to get some. There's a company called New Bell, NUE Bell, New Bell. You'll have to. I know it's not NEW, but they're these little click weights from 5 to 50 in increments of 5. They're compact and they're awesome, and they're not really bulky like a lot of those kind of ones where you use the pins to put it in and out. And then I have my tonal. My tonal pretty much covers everything. You know, I mean, it's lat pulls and deadlifts and curls and biceps, triceps, shoulders, back. I mean, it's 4 inches deep and 4 feet tall and looks like a piece of art on the wall. And it has, these arms that kind of come out. Unlike the mirror, you got to bring your own stuff. You know what I mean? The tonal, it's every piece of equipment in the gym attached to a giant iPhone. I mean, it's that amazing. And I'm on the platform, which is kind of cool. And a lot of people, apparently I'm still number 1 or 2 on the platform, which is nice. People like the way I deliver what I do. And so and I have a bench. I have a bench and I have some med balls. So sometimes I do push-ups on a med ball. So I don't need that gym anymore. I mean, sadly it's gone. I don't know if it'll ever come back, but I have my own little setup and it takes up almost no room at all. And then that keeps me consistent. So I've got the skiing and the snow shoveling and the training. And sometimes, like one day I did all 3 just because I felt pretty good about it. And I don't know, what is today, the 31st? I think I've worked out 26 days a month. Because I know that you touched upon it. It's not just the physical, it's the mental and emotional. I mean, if I go 3 days without exercise, I must be sick. You know what I mean? I must be traveling to Japan. There was something that's preventing me from getting busy. It's just too important to me. And again, the variety is still there. I still, my Mondays is cardio with all those 9 different pieces of equipment. Tuesday is shoulders and arms, but I never do the same routine twice. I'm always, because of the tonal, and especially back in LA. I mean, I'm in Jackson right now. I've got I got everything I need to create as much variety as possible. And I like to kind of just create it on the spot. You know what I mean? Like sometimes I'll combine shoulders and bis and tris in a circuit. Sometimes I'll just hammer my shoulders and then I'll do just my tris and just my biceps. Sometimes I'll do just shoulders and alternate bis and tris, just whatever it is. You know what I mean? Back in the day, we made up this term called muscle confusion. Everybody thinks it's some kind of scientific thing. We just came up with a phrase to describe variety. You know what I mean? And I still do that. And Wednesdays is plyo, but now I've got a new routine. I did plyo for 17 years, pretty much the same routine. Sometimes fast, sometimes slow, sometimes, less reps, more range of motion, decreased range of motion, whatever it was. I had the same 20 moves, but I would always week to week kind of play with how I would do it. And then once the animal flow kicked in, now I call it primal plyo. So I've mixed the plyo with the animal flow, and it's a bear, man. It's awesome. And I know for a fact that both the Monday, Wednesday, and of course, Thursday is chest and back and still has been and always will be probably. And then Friday is yoga. And then Sunday is my upper body, my 4-hour ninja routine. And that changes every week. Every week I come up, I just sit there like a mad scientist going, okay, what if we put our feet on a wall, put our feet on a med ball, walked on the wall with our feet and went from push-up stands to med balls while doing push-ups down, or let's go up the rope upside down, ring the bell with our feet. You know what I mean? Like anything that's just crazy and psycho. It keeps me young and it keeps my friends, aggravated, but they show up anyway. and that's just it. You know what I mean? Like because I've got 10,000 moves in my head and I've got another 10,000 I haven't thought of yet. So I like to try to sometimes combine them all and see what I can come up with. And that's the exercise part of it, purpose, plan, and accountability. Same as we talked about before. Like, why am I doing this? I've got my plan down, and my accountability comes from having the right-minded people who join me every time. Like right now, there's nobody staying with me. So being self-motivated is hard for me. Like I know I got to work out. I got to go do down there by myself. Probably shortly after. We're not going to get that call, are we? That's too bad. Anyway, we'll put that over there. It's just going to ring, I guess. So, on the food end of things, I mean, I've had several different combinations. Right now, I'm sort of super vegan. No meat, no fish, no chicken, and I go back and forth. Sometimes I decide to have it, and sometimes I don't. But I watched this documentary called "You Are What You Eat," which is a phrase that Jacqueline used to use all the time. And they took a set of twins, 22 sets of twins, and some were omnivores and some were plant-based, and that's all I needed to see. You know what I mean? And I had this amazing interview, much like the one that you and I are doing, with a woman by the name of Michelle Pettis, who's fluctuated multiple times with her weight, up like 700 pounds up and down.
Hmm.
And her basic philosophy is, and then she's, studied nutrition and endocrinology and everything else. She's had a long and interesting journey. And she says, now, and when I look at food, if it isn't packed with vitamins and minerals and isn't super nutritious, I don't eat it.
Hmm.
And I'm like, damn, yeah, of course. Of course. Like, what am I doing eating, like gluten-free, high fiber, vegan chocolate chip cookies? You know what I mean?
Hmm.
And my feeling for the longest time was, hey, you know what? I mean, if you're eating clean 80%, 85, 90% of the time, and you have and you cheat once in a while, it's not the end of the world. And that's still basically true for me, but it's much less so. Much less so. Like there are no cookies, no crackers, and no chips in this house. None. They don't exist. Even the healthy ones that are whatever, you know what I mean, that have minimal ingredients. And now, so I was between 172 and 177. And then I made this switch about a month ago, and I'm between 157 and 162. Like, right. Oh, you're too skinny, and what's wrong with you? But I have never felt better. I look the same. You know what I mean? But my little love handles are gone. Like, I store fat in my chest, in my obliques, and in my low back. It's gone. It's gone. And I mean, I ski top to bottom, man. I mean, I don't believe I have any inflammation anywhere in my body, my muscles, my joints, my organs, my digestive system. I've never, I mean, I had some multi-grain sprouted toast this morning with vegan butter. You know what I mean? Like, I'm going psycho. To some people like, Jesus, dude. And then my friends that were here just watch me ski, and they watch me train, and they see how lean I am. And they like one guy was eating ice cream. Like, one of my buddies, he's super fit, right? I mean, he's big, but he got on the scale. I go, how much do you think you weigh? He goes, I think I probably weigh about 182. He got on the scale, 192. Hadn't been on the scale in a while. And the scale isn't the end all be all. We all know that already, right? But still, he was shocked. So he cut out the ice cream and started eating fruit at night like I do. And he's made that switch. Yeah. So those are the changes I've made since we spoke last.
So Tony, you mentioned something. I'm just curious for you, like, about the whole don't eat it unless it's healthy, right? Or it contains the nutrients, whatever. How do you because I think the hardest part for a lot of people is, I think it's a mental thing, right? We have this mental kind of feeling towards food. How do you kind of work past that? And what's the advice for other people? Because I feel like most people are emotional eaters.
Yeah. I mean, we eat all the wrong things for all the wrong reasons because there's so many things going wrong. And that's kind of a bummer. And that requires some deep analysis. Maybe it requires, a nutritionist or an endocrinologist or a therapist in some cases. And so my philosophy has evolved over decades. I mean, I'm in a place right now where just because of that, because I like the way this feels. And it wasn't easy at first, like cutting out the some of the sweets that I was eating and cutting out the chocolate, the vegan, gluten-free chocolate chip cookies that I found that I thought, okay, look, I get to have the flavor that I've had, but it's just empty calories to a certain extent, So, and I have a vegan home delivery food service that followed me from LA to here to Jackson Hole. And when I go to shop, I can't tell you when I'm walking through the aisles and I look at the stuff I used to buy and I'm like, oh, like that first couple of weeks, it's like, oh, I'm gonna, those 360 crackers and those cauliflower, puffs and all this crap. But the thing is, you sit down and you eat half a bag. I don't care how healthy it's supposed to be. And then you go through an entire thing of hummus and you go through an entire box of whatever crackers or chips. It's just mindless eating. And I said, so what do I got to substitute that with? And so if you find yourself like my buddy eating ice cream, he's a fitness guy and he's eating half a pint of ice cream at night. I mean, what the heck, whatever. He's still strong, but ain't no sign of a six pack anywhere in there. Not that that matters to him or not, but he still skis like a madman. It's for me, it's about health. It's just about quality of life. It's about, taking care of my digestive system. It's about keeping that visceral fat down. Never mind the subcutaneous fat, the stuff that just sits below the surface. That stuff that's in your organs that eventually kills you, that eventually gives you disease, So let's keep that at a minimum. And for me, it's mixed nuts and berries. That's it, man. Those are the only single ingredient foods. It's blueberries, blackberries, raspberries, and strawberries. And I put them in a big bowl, and then I rinse them off, and I put them in the freezer for 10 minutes so they get really cold. And every once in a while, I'll put just a little dollop of coconut, unsweetened coconut yogurt on there, which is basically one ingredient. And then the mixed nuts, it's like when I used to reach for the crackers, like during the playoffs, the chips are there on the table, and there's guacamole, which I still eat. I like, but I'll put guacamole on some, multi-grain sprouted bread, as opposed to just chip, you know what I mean? Corn chips. And I don't do wheat, soy, corn, or dairy. Sometimes it sneaks in. I mean, what are you going to do? But I avoid it really for the most part. And that brings all that inflammation down, that irritable bowel syndrome and leaky gut and all the things that people suffer from are as a result of just mindless eating. And you have to decide, like, I can't, like, my thing, for me, what's the best thing I can do for myself? Like, what routines do I need to do? What do I need to put in my mouth? I control both of those things. And every once in a while I succumb to, some raisin toast that is sprouted, you know what I mean? With vegan butter. Like, that's my cheat now. There's no bacon in my life. There's no ham in my life. There's no soda pop in my life. There's no dairy or ice cream or cheese in my life. There's some vegan cheese. What's the brand? Miyoko, which is, I saw a documentary on her and what she's created. I mean, it's pretty amazing. And that once in a while, some of that is, even that I don't eat very often. And I just like, look, I got on the scale the other day, 157, like, holy smokes. But I mean, my body fat, so I don't know what it is. It's probably 8 or 9 or something like that. Which, those two numbers don't really matter to me that much. It's just a way to kind of look at where I am. But it's like, well, how do I perform? How do I sleep? What's my sex drive like? These are things that matter to me. And I think all those things matter to people. And if you want to upgrade them, you want to improve upon them, then you got to make change. And if you don't make the change, well, then, I don't know, you might end up with type 2 diabetes or hypertension or stroke or worse, by not making those adjustments. So I like, a lot of people, they don't see the future. They don't, right? Like the past is history, the future is a mystery. Well, you can kind of break out the crystal ball and everybody knows what your genetics are, but epigenetics is just your behavior and your environment. When you change your behavior and your environment, you can dramatically improve the DNA that you've been given by mom and dad just by making healthy choices and moving your ass. I mean, it's like, wow. And I control both those things. It requires discipline and a plan and a purpose and the right people around you. I mean, once you get that all figured out, then it's not so bad.
Every time I listen to you, I feel like I'm doing things the right way. I'll say the right way. And then I talk to you, and I like to speak to people like you, Tony, because then I realize, there's room for improvement. And it gets me motivated to change some of those habits even more, to put some more discipline in there and even work harder. As far as your career in health, fitness, wellness, everything you've done, I feel like it's a lot to do also with your personality. Like, you have this, like, I'm not going to lie to you. What you just explained sounded absolutely horrible, but in a way, it's true. But no, like, you know what I'm
Oh,
saying?
I get it, dude. It's
But it
totally.
sounds great. And I'm like, you know what? I think I want some sprouted toast with vegan butter because I probably should, right? So I think your personality, how do you continue as we're all getting older, but you continue to have us, your audience, age along with you? How do you attract even keep us with you, keep us engaged, but then attract even the younger audience to come along for the ride?
Well, hey, a lot of ways to get there. I mean, I'm on Tonal, right? And so there's a whole team of people, they're media people to try to, let everyone know that that exists and what it is and what it costs and the benefits of it. You know what I mean? And I'm involved in a lot of that. You know what I mean? And but that's another company that I work for, so I don't have a whole lot of influence on what it is they want, me to say and how they want me to say it. You know, the cool thing about my supplement line is that most of those products were designed with me in mind as a aging athlete, as a 65-year-old male. Especially after I got sick in 2017 with Ramsay-Hunt syndrome. The protein powder, has gobs of HMB and vitamin D3 and some chromium, which helps build muscle, regardless of your age. And everybody who's over a certain age, from mid 40s up, they're going to suffer from sarcopenia to some degree, which is age-related muscle loss. And so, I have a lot of influence there with, not only what goes inside, but the color of the jar, the font, the photos of me on it, like how big my name is, even though I think it should be bigger. On the bottle, especially those little ones. Like, who's this guy? What's his name? But which is really nice, which I really appreciate about them. We got our new bars coming out, and I think I had 5 or 6 samples of protein bars that I said I rejected. I go, it's too much sweet and not enough fiber, man, and not enough protein. And so finally, we've come up with our final rendition. They only arrived here only like 3 or 4 days ago, and they taste amazing, and they're not too sweet, and they're loaded with fiber, and I love it. So, I mean, and then you look at Power Nation. I mean, that's just a matter of keep having the right team around us, and we're on like our 5th team. The first 4 didn't quite cut it, but we're really happy with who we have right now. And it's all about disseminating the information in such a way, using my personality. Like after you and I get on the phone off the Zoom, I have 6 videos to shoot. They have to be 60 seconds long. There's specific topics based on questions that people are asking. I've been told that I have to be outside in nature. You know what I mean? Like there's all this stuff that we do. And I mean, I'm very lucky. I have a fan base that starts at 15 and goes to 80. I mean, I don't know why. You would think a lot of younger kids would be, on YouTube, checking out people closer to their age. But the thing is too, that a lot of younger folks were watching their parents do P90X and P90X2 and P90X3. So it's like I've been in their house for a while. And so my original fans, a lot of them are still around. And then a lot of the younger generation, the Gen Y, Z, X, I don't know. Generation X, that's not X. I'm a boomer, X was next. Y, Z, is that right? Anyway, they've had me around in their house. And so, look, I mean, I disseminate my message differently than most people. I mean, I try to be as honest and authentic and real as possible based on my own personal experience. And I'm a goofball. Somebody years ago coined me the America's Fitness Clown. Okay, that's fine. I'll take it. You know what I mean? All righty, let's do some push-ups. Yeah, so because exercise is hard and food discipline is harder. And if you can't get the message out in a way that's different than most, then a lot of people aren't going to be able to make those changes if they don't, because it's a cult of personality thing a little bit with me, I guess. And so, that's why I gotta walk the walk and talk the talk, man. I can't ever, and I have to always evolve. I have to always keep working on things, and I can't be a drill sergeant, and I can't be a therapist, and I can't be, too silly, but I mean, I am who I am. I mean, the guy that you're talking to now is the same guy that you saw on P90X. I mean, I'm not as, crazy now because this is a different scenario than shooting a workout video. And having done a lot of stand-up comedy and improv comedy and being on a stage and having a couple of TV shows along the way. And that just allows me to be really comfortable in situations where a lot of trainers are good in front of one-on-one or in a group, but when they get the camera on them, you know what I mean, they freeze up or they look a little stiff, and they're doing that accordion thing. You ever see spokespeople like they're doing this the whole time? Like, is that how you talk to people when you're at a party? You're just doing this? You know what I mean? Put your arms down. Talk like you talk, for God's sakes. Like, why I have you turned into a robot? And people notice that stuff. You know what I mean? You notice that stuff, and it feels like, that person seems uncomfortable. I don't know if I want them to be my trainer. And, you know, I'm more comfortable in a situation like this or in front of 32,000 people than I am, you know, in a crowd where I'm not, you know, doing my thing. Right.
Gotcha. Well, I think I mean, at least for me, I can remember you're probably the only workout routine I did where I would, as I was doing the workout, I would be flipping you off and cracking up at the same time. But you know what?
I hate it, but I love it. Yeah.
I turned it on every day.
It's like that.
Turned it on every day. Yeah. I guess I want to end with this because I feel like you're doing so much good and continue to do so much good in this world in general, man. I think not just the fitness, I think people are, it's becoming near and dear to me too, is like this whole mental health crisis I think we're having. How important, Tony, do you think what you're doing and this fitness component is to really help just everyone basically with having a better outlook and better mental health?
Wow. Well, you know, I think that's a brilliant way to finish because I think it's paramount. I think it's the most important thing. The reason why there's a whole bunch of people out there that are exercising for all the wrong reasons. And there's a finite, smaller group of those people who can continue to exercise based on that type of motivation, which is purely ego and aesthetics. You know, I mean, they're all about six packs and arms and whatever, and how much they can bench and how much they can squat. They're all caught up in the numbers on the scale and body fat percentages. And I think those are important. Like, I don't want to disown the importance of that, but all that stuff should be on, if there's a list of important reasons why, that should be sort of at the bottom. It's just a way to kind of measure, you know, because I get on the scale. I know I used to weigh 172, 177. Now I weigh 157 to 162, give or take. It's like, okay, I don't want to weigh 147. I don't think, you know, I mean, like, who knows, you know? I like the way I look, which is semi-important, and I like the way I feel, which is most important. And most people who are in the game long-term and understand this know that physical activity is as much or much more mental and emotional. And if you read John Ratey's book, and I think we spoke about this last time, you know, and Sanjay Gupta wrote a book too, only about a year ago, based on the same thing. I mean, John Ratey and Gupta are two very brilliant men who understand the effects of physical activity on the brain and on your emotional state. You're releasing norepinephrine and dopamine and serotonin and brain-derived neurotropic factor known as BDNF, and these cannabinoids, which is basically what you get from weed. You know what I mean? It's already in there, man, waiting for you to move your ass, right? That feel-good thing. And it doesn't have to be an hour, you know, chest workout. It doesn't have to be a 90-minute yoga routine. All those feel-good chemicals that are sitting inside your temporal lobe are, you know, that starts working within 5 to 10 to 12 to 15 minutes, depending on what you're doing. And then the longer you go, the more of it you get. And you also get the physical attributes long-term that, you know, it's kind of a perfect thing. And everybody's on these medications. What's that medication? Everybody's like, they're selling out of it everywhere to lose weight. It's such a
epinephrine, maybe, is that it?
I forget the pharmaceutical name for it. Yeah, but you know, they're all just taking shortcuts. Like, everybody wants to hack their way into something. How about you earn it? How about you work hard for it? How about you're patient for it? How about you enjoy the journey? Like, oh yeah, wow, I did first grade. I'm gonna hack my way to ninth grade. No, you got to go to second and third and fourth and fifth grade and sixth grade, seventh grade. Got to do it. That's how it's life. You know what I mean? Like anybody, most doctors most surgeons, they can't biohack their way to becoming a doctor. You know what I mean? I don't know why we've gotten so damn lazy, but we have, and we want all these shortcuts and we want to take all these silly pills. And that just doesn't mean it's yours. It means it's somebody else. It's an outside source that gave you a short-term answer. And and so that usually can lead to long-term problems, or disappointment in the long run, because you didn't actually do the work. Like, I just do the damn work. Do I like, I love skiing, and I prepare all year long so I can go out in that mountain and just charge. But do I like doing plyometrics? Do I like doing an hour and 10-minute cardio routine? Nah, not really. Right. But I know what it does for me in the long term, allowing me to predict the future to a certain extent, and also how it affects my mental and emotional state today. Like, when I go downstairs and I get in my little space and I crank up my music and I use my new bells and my tonal and my med balls and my power stands, and I'm in there for 24 sets of shoulders and arms, I feel completely different than I do before I walk into the room. Now, before I walk into the room, there's a lot of, oh, God, nobody's here and I'm by myself. And there's a little bit of that noise. I'm a human being, right? But I do it anyway, Charles. I do it anyway, because I know how I'm going to feel afterward and what that does for the quality of my life as I move forward. You know what I mean? A lot of people are like blue pills for sex, whatever. How about you pump oxygen in the places you need it through exercise, which, affects your whole head to toe, right? It's just, I don't know. It's just, so, like, you look at PowerSync 60, for example, the program that so many women who are doing it are just loving the fact that they're in a better mood. They feel more joy. They're better problem solvers. They're more in the moment. Their relationships are improving. Like, everybody wants all of those things. And you get that by adjusting your diet and exercising maybe 15, 20 minutes a day. And if you want to keep going, you want to move past one of the stop options. That's what people want. Like, there's a 72-year-old woman in the test group. She was hoping to lose 5 pounds. She lost 15, and she felt like she didn't even have to try that hard. You know what I mean? She just showed up and did stuff that was hard at first. And then the more she did, the better she got. Right. Nobody was killing P90X in the first week. Oh, wow. Chest and back on day 1, plyometrics on day 2. I'm out of here. That thing goes back up on the shelf. But a lot of people just figured it out. Jeremy Yost, a guy who had a fused right ankle, lost 180 pounds in the first round of P90X. He was basically marching in place and just watching it and just observing and just learning by observing. And then the next round, he lost a little bit of weight. He was able to start doing push-ups and whatever he could do with a fused ankle, like an ankle that didn't do this. It was just here. And he did it anyway. Right. Richard Neal, same thing. He lost 270 pounds. Like, forget about it. The program was never designed for those guys. Kathy McDonald, 125 pounds. She's a mom, a busy mom with, 3 kids. I think 3 or 4 kids. And she's still fit today. That was, I don't know, man, like 15, 16, 17 years ago. So, do you want it bad enough or not? You got to go for it. You got to earn it. And it takes time, and you got to be patient, and don't be so attached to the outcome, and keep your expectations down instead of way through the roof and they're unobtainable. I want to lose 25 pounds in 3 weeks. Well, you're an idiot. It's like, take the pill from the pharmacist and you'll do it. And then, you haven't improved your muscles. You haven't improved your tendons. You haven't improved your ligaments. You haven't improved your digestive system. You haven't improved your posture or your balance or your ability to move quickly or your strength or anything. But you're smaller and you look good in clothes. Good for you.
It's so true. So true, Tony. So true. Well, listen, Tony, I just probably, I'm going to look back on this interview, and like the first one, I'll just have a pretty much continuous smile the whole time on my face. Yeah. I appreciate everything you do. I really appreciate you being so gracious to not only jump on once, but for the second time with me. So thank you for that. And I really appreciate everyone watching. Please check out, I'll put show notes for Tony, all the great stuff he has going on. And if you haven't, please make sure you check out Tony Horton. You will not regret it. Tony, thank you. Thanks everyone for listening. Take care.
Charles, thank you, man. Enjoy the rest of your day. Bye.
Thanks, Tony.
You're welcome, man.
This has been the Bare Essentials. Thanks for listening, and remember, never hibernate on your goals.